Soon after President Trump's inauguration in January 2017, his administration enforced an immigration order preventing travel to the United States from 7 predominantly Muslim countries. We looked at articles written by journalists of the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune on the day of the executive order and the days following, specifically from January 27th to February 4th, 2017. A frequent and compelling frame used by both newspapers was the human interest frame, exploring stories of people affected by the ban.
For some background on the travel ban itself, President Trump issued an executive order on January 27, 2017, blocking immigration to the United States from 7 predominantly Muslim countries. Trump emphasized that this ban was put into place to protect the safety of Americans, keeping out radical Islamic terrorists, and checking out Muslim refugees already residing in the U.S.
We're going to have extreme vetting in all cases, and I mean extreme. And we're not letting people in if we think there's even a little chance of some problem. We are excluding certain countries, but for other countries, we're going to have extreme vetting.
Trump invoked the attacks of September 11th in his declaration of the ban, though the terrorists in the 9/11 attacks were from countries not represented in his current ban.
The frame that we will explore in the context of the New York Times and Chicago Tribune articles about Trump's travel ban is called the human interest frame. The human interest frame brings a human face or an emotional angle to the presentation of an event, issue, or problem. Both newspapers employed this frame frequently to talk about the implications of the travel ban. The New York Times articles mostly contain vignettes about the struggles people have gone through, either to immigrate to America or the troubles they experience after leaving the U.S., only returning to find they were prohibited from re-entering. The Chicago Tribune articles focused on the outcry of stories from individuals on U.S. soil, filled with feelings of alienation and worry. Veterans worried for immigrants who had put their lives and the lives of their families at risk by working with U.S. forces and could no longer seek safe haven in America.
In portraying these stories and general information about the ban itself, both newspapers recognized how dangerous the ban was for our foreign policy and for our relationships in politics and business with other countries. The New York Times specifically had many articles that explored the ways in which the ban was detrimental to our own fight against terrorism, actually going against the administration's goal of protecting Americans. The Chicago Tribune recognized these arguments, but their articles were more likely to take a dramatic stance and quote people who argued that the order was essential to protect our country. The Tribune gave space for these reasonings and put forth discussions about President Trump following through on his promise to secure our nation to the best of his ability, no matter the method.
Moving into some implications of the human interest frame, it is clear that journalists from both newspapers use vignettes to their advantage in reporting news around the travel ban. Framing is all about making specific parts of a story salient. Perhaps the trend of making human suffering salient should also be considered when thinking about the use of the human interest frame.
Families separated for hours, including this 5-year-old boy.
The Cleveland Clinic doctor, she was forced to leave, even though she holds an H-1B visa for workers in specialty occupations.
Hamid Darwish is a 53-year-old Iraqi. He had helped the U.S. military for 10 years in Iraq as an interpreter.
If the human interest frame is overused, it could serve to reinforce damaging stereotypes about refugees or about Muslims in general. Furthermore, the emotional impact of these stories allows readers to make their own decisions about morality. But really, imparting scrutiny on the people in power themselves is a responsibility of the press. The lack of the morality frame within these newspapers makes the audience question the watchdog function of the press. The press has the responsibility of questioning those in power. Using a frame like human interest distracts the media from fulfilling an important responsibility, which is detrimental to all parties in the system.
Outside of emotional responses, the media has potential to highlight the beliefs, values, and attitudes of individuals. In terms of the ban, the newspapers heard from both sides. Those who value an American-centric approach, solidifying their belief in the president and in the national security of this country, compared to those expressing their hurt and anger towards the ban through self-proclamations, demonstrations, and protests. Within the human interest frame, political parties place their attitudes and beliefs towards the ban in juxtaposition, priming the public to assess the political leaders holding the microphone, as well as their own viewpoint on the ban. Morality is put into question as to how open we should keep America's doors. The human interest frame further contributes to the chaos of the media effects, and these articles further show that our nation is divided over the implications of the travel ban.